come on in the room. Come on in the room. It's your boy Chris King with the Cream City crossover. No Trey Crosby the third tonight. No JT. We had no Dame, no Giannis. Just everything around the Bucks. Just getting to us now. No, I'm just kidding. We hope everybody's having a good holiday. We are live with the Cream City crossover. I'm Chris King.
I'm Justin.
Yeah, man. The Bucks collapsed tonight. 111-105. They take an L in the Fiserv Forum after, beating the Bulls handedly on Monday, shorthanded. And tonight it was just a case, and we'll talk about the tale of two halves. Just not good. Not good in that fourth quarter. You gave it up, and ultimately you allowed Brooklyn to even make this a game and hit some tough shots that shouldn't have went in, and then you lose the game down the stretch. So all in all, just an unfortunate loss from what I saw, and we drop another one at home. We fall to 16-12 on the season. And this is a Brooklyn Nets team that's pretty feisty, I would say. Like they've got some young, energetic players on their team that really, I don't know, where the hell did Noah Clowney come from? How is he torching the Bucks every time he sees the Bucks? Like, this is crazy. But no, aside that, we'll get into the game recap. Cameron Johnson led them with 29 points. Hit a big shot at the end to go up 6 after Chris cut it to 3. Nick Claxton. This was something we were going to look at, right? The mismatch of having Brook out there, because I think Nick Claxton outplayed him last game, but I think Brook did a good job early on in the game. He made him space it out a little bit by knocking down some threes, and then he was just way better on Claxton tonight. Claxton goes for 13 and 7. And then off the bench, man, like this is what we're going to get into because we have Delon wrong in the sidebar. Is Shake Milton off the bench? 20 points. 20 points from Shake Milton. And I think a lot of those came in that fourth quarter. Not a lot of defense being played by Delon Wright, and he was able to get off. And then around the board, I know Trey Crosby somewhere saying Ben Simmons is a 2-pack of ass because he went for 8 and 9. Hey, plus 16 on the night though. I think he was okay. He doesn't really, do too much outside of facilitate. So I guess he was good there, but he also did have 6 turnovers. So nothing to be too proud about from Ben Simmons. And then the Bucks, we go with Bobby Portis. He had that game against Brooklyn, really hit that big 3 to overcome the Nets on the road. He went for 18 points and 8 rebounds, but not as good of a shooting night as he had versus the Nets in the previous matchup. And then you go Chris Middleton, 21 points. He had 7 turnovers, though. Hit a big shot at the end, but just wasn't enough after, some mental lapses as well in that quarter from Chris. A lot of turnovers. He had that flagrant foul, my goodness, where he elbowed who was that? Cam Johnson?
Yeah.
So that was definitely a mistake that Chris made. I don't know. Some people will probably argue whether that was even a flagrant in the first place, but you hit a guy high above the shoulders. That's something that may be called, and it was, and that kind of also turned the tide of the game, right? Because they were up 4. The Bucks were up 4. It allowed them to cut it to 2, get the ball back, and then they ultimately tie it up, right? So Chris, I think he was thrusted in a different role because there's still a little bit of new – I think Ryan Rollins is a little green when it comes to running the offense and having the ball in his hands. So Chris was thrusted into that role, and you see why some of those mistakes happen. So I'm not going to get on Chris too much for those turnovers and how he handled the ball. Elsewhere, Ajax gets 23 minutes. I thought he was really good on Cam Johnson at first. Like, he was making him work. And coming in with no Cam Thomas, and coming in, I think they had a couple more guys out, no Dorian Finney-Smith, guys like that, that Cam Johnson is going to be the primary scorer for the Brooklyn Nets, right? Like, so Ajax being on him, making him work hard was good. He had a big pass in the third quarter to AJ Green that knocked down a wide open 3. So he got like sparring minutes. Like, it's weird. Still, we're seeing with Ajax the inconsistent minutes being played, throwing him out there and not being able to rely on him as much after you play him and you start him, right? So something to keep an eye on there. Ryan Rollins, didn't think he was particularly good tonight, but 3 of 7, 1 of 5 from 3. I thought he played good defense. I thought even though despite the turnovers, 4 turnovers from him, he had 3 steals and he had a block. We call those stocks around here. And Ryan Rollins I think he did as best as he could on the defensive end. I think he had that foul late in the game that ended up making the 4-point play for Cam Johnson. But at the same time, like, he belongs out there, and that's what I've seen in the game as long as I've been watching Ryan Rollins play. And then elsewhere, you got 14 from Gary Trent Jr. I thought he was really good tonight. I thought, him creating and providing that spark allowed us to keep the lead in that third quarter and then heading into the fourth quarter. So I thought I saw a lot of good stuff from Gary Trent Jr. A.J. Green, 3 of 8, 2 of 7 from 3, 8 points. Hit some big ones, but, they made him work as well. So Taurean Prince, we've got to figure something out with him, man. Like, at the beginning of the season, we thought Taurean Prince was the guy who had gelled into this new team out of all the new additions the most, and now he's not in the starting lineup anymore, and he's kind of fallen off a little bit. But he went 50% from the 3, and so I think that's pretty much what I saw in terms of like just the game flow. Like, I thought this Bucks team did a really good job again with no with no Dame, with no Giannis, going out there and not letting that be an excuse, right? Like, you took it to this team in that second quarter, and you had that lead at the half, and you were able to build some in the third quarter, right? Like, you got up double digits at one point. And then all of a sudden, like, that fourth quarter came around, and then there was we either ran out of gas, or I just think, bad defense and mental lapses led to some of these mistakes that ultimately cost you the game. So Nets beat the Bucks 111-105. Bucks once again fall to 16-12 on the year. But hey, no Dame, no Giannis. Justin, what'd you see?
Man, so what I saw is this is the epitome of peeing down your leg. This is what the Bucks did. They were in complete control of this basketball game for 3/4, almost 85% of the game. And then Shake Milton got hot, and we forgot how to score the ball ourselves. I mean, the one thing that can counter that hot offense that we was making, if we make buckets too, A.J. Green with that 8 points, man. I always put in the chat those crazy parlays. The last piece to my puzzle for $10 winning $400 was A.J. Green getting 10. All those halfway in 3.
He had that transition 3 that might have put the Bucks up, I think 9 in that fourth quarter too.
9.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but, from my own personal stuff, I'm a little bit upset at that, but it is what it is. Big shout out to Brook, though. Was he top 20 in NBA shot blocks of all time? Mm-hmm. That's huge. Darn near game ball preview giveaway winner right there, right? Yeah. Just a lot of sloppiness, so you're right. I mean, Chris, bad decisions. Bobby, bad decisions. Brook, bad decisions. Gary, bad decisions. A.J. Green, bad decisions. Rollins. The epitome of the fourth quarter was bad decisions by everybody on the team. Even some of the shots that we didn't hit, it was like those are shots that we normally make. So am I super pissed off about it? I feel like we lost to whatever virus is going around that locker room. But going forward, we just gotta control the turnovers a little bit better. I think we'll be fine though.
Yeah, certainly got to control the turnovers, and it is tough. I will say it is tough without Damian Lillard, your number one point guard, right, to just thrust different guys into that primary ball handling spot, especially when Chris has missed so much time this year. I think that is tough on this Bucks team, and I certainly think that like having these kind of games are definitely worth it for some of the young guys, right? Like having Ryan Rollins have to experience a game like this and have to, I guess, co-handle the ball with Chris Middleton and just trying to figure out how to run an NBA offense. A little bit of that, I think that's good for this Bucks team, but ultimately, like, can't end in a loss. Cannot end in a loss, and it did, especially when you have a lead like that. And so that'll kind of take us into our next topic, which is Delon wrong. Trey Crosby III sent us his thoughts on the text chat. He was just like, man, two-pack abs once again. No, so this is what I saw with Delon Wright, and this is why I think you can kind of put the blame. I would say you could put the blame for this game a little bit everywhere, right? Like you could ask why Doc had him in the game so long in that fourth quarter. They had multiple opportunities to sub him out. They had guys checked in at the scorers table and they left him in, right? So I think the Bucks had a lead. I think it was about 9 points, and then they had an opportunity to go back up double digits in that fourth quarter, and immediately, he gets the ball poked away, and he didn't even get it poked away. He throws it backcourt, misses somebody on a pass, and he's out hustled to the ball, and then they go get a dunk. I think it was Keon Johnson. And then Shake Milton comes in, and then you've got Delon getting left wide open for three on that right, I think it was right wing for three. They left him open, quick one and done, come down, Shake Milton hits a three. And it just looked like he didn't belong on the court right there. Like there were multiple instances where you're just watching and you're like, that's an effort problem, but it also could be a skill problem with Delon Wright. Like I'm not sure what Doc has kind of seen in him, especially because he's had games where he's just not played much or not played at all, right? So to be able to be so confident that you're going to throw him in the game when you've got, the younger athletic cat and Ryan Rollins, and, you've been playing him. You started him, but you're not playing him in an important stretch. It was a little questionable for me. Where do you think so it is Delon Wright that what we're talking about. So what do you think is the issue with what you're seeing with him on the court? And do you think you can place blame elsewhere for this kind of collapse? What do you think led to the collapse?
So it's tough for me to criticize Delon Wright. Do I think that was his best game? By far, no. But the reason why it's tough for me to criticize him, because I look at him like the 9th, 10th man on the roster, right? So it's like, it's a reason why he plays when everyone's fully healthy, the minutes in a role that he plays on this team. I thought the previous two games, he gave us a little bit more, talked about getting downhill more, did a good job of that. Today, this is the thing with Delon when he's in that type of game mode. Those shots weren't just misses, Chris. They were like bad air balls that you or I could shoot backwards. Like I have more faith in Banga with the backwards half-court shot than that wide open three. And you saw guys looking as they're moving the ball around and Delon's faking like he's going to go to AJ. His guy just stays there because he's like, you haven't made nothing all that game. When you see a game like that, that's where I would like to see, if we're going to be this shorthanded, where's Pat Connaughton at? Because I know he's not going to, if he's going to miss the three, it's not going to be as bad as that. But, it's just a tough game, man. It's a tough, like you said, it's sloppy all around. Unfortunately, Rollins couldn't play 48. You would have loved it. I know he's young and all that, but this is one of those losses that are tough to have. They're frustrating. But like you said earlier, I'd rather learn from them in 2024 than have these struggles when the bees are flying around and the flowers are blooming and we're getting ready to put our tank tops back on, right?
Yeah, to me, I don't know. Like, I think – so Trey just hopped in the chat. Trey, we see you, man. We miss you. Can't wait to get you back anchoring the Cream City crossover. He said, Justin, no, he was brought in to be the backup point guard and got demoted. Now, moment to prove himself and piss down his leg. I think I saw a little bit of that. Like, I do think that this was an opportunity for him to really show that he could be a reliable option instead of just Ryan Rollins, where all of our hope is in on Ryan Rollins and a young cat that hasn't really played in important games yet. And all of a sudden, he goes out there and it just didn't feel like it was his best effort, right? Or it looked a little rusty, like he's, I feel like he was just a step slow on offense, and then he's making decent passes, but he's also trying to force a lot, and the defensive end was just god-awful. So that's where I think a little bit of, the what I saw from Delon Wright today was definitely wrong. Let's check out some chats elsewhere. Midwest Ballers TV, this felt like the 2010s Bucks basketball tonight. You got a comment on that?
That was rough basketball to watch. I don't remember us being up a lot in 2010 though, but it was definitely a lot of get my buckets and keep going forward though. So I'm sure that's what the homie's alluding to.
Will Lindquist said, "Love you guys. This game sucked to be at. Hope they bounce back here, and happy holidays." Yeah, man. Obviously, I know Bucks fans and Bucks Nation appreciates you being in the building for that and still being able to keep the hopes high. John Alberto says, "Frustrating game." Iron Man Clan TV says, "Where you at, DJ Drew?" Obviously talking about Bobby Portis, because he was not as good tonight as you would have liked him to be. 0-4 from 3. Charles Miller says, "Delon Wright was especially bad today. Hard one to watch. Hopefully they'll learn something from this or just toss it out and move on." And then Quick Draw McGraw says, "Yeah, not playing Ajax in the fourth quarter was not a good decision." So let's stay there. Let's talk about this Ajax situation, because I do feel like I mentioned before, I thought he was great in terms of energy and effort on Cam Johnson, who, like we said, was going to be the target, was going to be the focus for this Nets team. And he still ended up giving you, 29, 26, whatever it was. But I feel like those minutes that Ajax provided on Cam Johnson would have maybe given you a better shot coming down the stretch. I just feel like even if his offense is not there yet, he's still out there making plays and can match the type of pace that the Brooklyn Nets want to play, right? So I think that there's a little bit of I don't know what's going on in terms of why he's not really getting important minutes down the stretch, but I do feel like I saw a lot of decent things, even though he's not made himself to be such an offensive threat that we would want him to be.
Well, he had a lot of good takes off the dribble, man. And he was taking guys to the bucket. And then when he's going to the bucket, all of them didn't lead, but they led to some of the shots that AJ Green missed, to some of the other guys that are good shooters. That's what I'm saying, that don't normally miss these shots. I think the thing is, in that fourth quarter, we really needed a bucket. Not just me, myself personally, but we all really needed a bucket from AJ Green. And that's why he was on the floor. And I think Doc felt a lot more comfortable with having AJ Green on the floor for that bucket versus Ajax. We're almost going to have to get to the point of his ball handling skills too, though. He definitely passed the ball pretty well tonight and handled it well. And then, I'm not even going to jump on my guy like that. But yeah, Ajax has got to get a little bit more consistency with the three-point shot, and I think he would be on the floor in the fourth quarter. Excuse me.
Yeah. I think you're right. I do agree with you that he did make some plays with the ball in his hands, even though he's not, I guess, scoring it at a high level. But off the dribble, I saw, like I talked about, that AJ Green 3 that he found him open. Kind of got the 5-serve going with the oohs and ahs, because it was such a great pass. Fooled the defense, and it was like a no look. That type of stuff will play, right? Like especially if you're able to guard their best player and make sure that he's not having as good of a night as normally, then I think that's something that can stay on the floor going forward. Quick Draw McGraw says, "Once the Bucks removed Ajax, the Nets offense took off in the fourth. We couldn't stop them." Iron Man Clan TV says, "Cam didn't start scoring until Ajax checked out the game and said we got Delon wrong. Shit in the bed." Okay. Gregory says, "Where's the stars? Where's Giannis and Dame?" You got something?
No, I was going to say, so for the Ajax in the fourth quarter, when Shake Milton is going off, that's where I may want to see that guy subbed in to kind of get in his grill. But and Trey is absolutely right. We signed Delon Wright to be our backup point guard, but we also signed this guy to be 3 and D.
Yeah.
And tonight he had neither one of them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But the night before he did.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because when he was, I think when he was in Washington, where there was no, real interest of him staying with that team, and then he goes to the Heat and he's on a contender, and now he's with us, right? I think there was a sense that, like, he can play defense at a high level, and maybe we have seen some of that, right? Like, you've seen him get in passing lanes and make some nice defensive plays, but for the effort to not match what the hype is about his defense, that's kind of frustrating in itself. Yeah, Gregory, I appreciate the comment about, Giannis and Dame. So Giannis and Dame out, what is this, third game in a row they've been out together?
Yeah, that same virus that allegedly got Chris has now spread to other players on the team. And we even saw, was it Tyler Smith or AJ Johnson miss a couple games for the same type of illness?
I think so, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I would be a little concerned about especially because Dame came down with a calf injury, right? but it's just like
Yeah.
soreness, calf soreness.
Yep.
So that's where I'd be concerned about is just how many minutes these guys were playing in the first 20-some games without Chris, right? First 21 games without Chris. Obviously, you had missed a couple games here and there, so they didn't play all 21. But like that's where you get concerned about. And this isn't a conversation for today, I wouldn't say, but like that's where you get concerned about the minutes and how much these guys are taking a beating throughout this regular season. But this is a team that just came off of winning the NBA Cup, right? Like this is a team that has looked really good in certain stretches. So if they just need to get back on the floor together. That's the biggest thing. I understand that they haven't been playing these past 3 games, and these are games that you should win. They're 2-1 in the past 3, right?
Yep.
So they've gone over 500 against poor teams, but at the same time, you want these guys to be on the floor for sure.
Yeah, and with that illness, man, it's just something that kind of it sucks. I think they said in the pregame that Doc said allegedly, because I 100% remember it, but Dame's calf is good to go now. So then it comes into that whole illness situation. Yeah, and I know we've all been privy to the Michael Jordan flu game, et cetera, but this is December 26th against Brooklyn. Hey, you just got to take your breaths now, because you don't want to take those breaths during the summer where we want to be in these Eastern Conference Finals. We'll be fine though, man. Like I'm surprised the Nets guy didn't come in here and try to rip us a new one.
Yeah.
We're under 500. I thought he was just chopping at the bit. We'll see what happens with this whole virus thing. Though, hopefully, no one else gets it. That's all I gotta say about it.
Well, yeah, and the good thing is the Bucks don't play again until Tuesday. So you play Tuesday, right? That's Tuesday. Yeah.
No, Saturday against Chicago.
Oh, really? They got Saturday?
Yep.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they got Saturday. All right, and then what is it? It's Tuesday after that, right?
Correct.
Okay, yep, Saturday. Okay, so even still, you got a day off. You see where you're at from there. You got the Bulls on Saturday, but then on Tuesday, then you get the Pacers. That's a 3:00 start Eastern time. Maybe you see a return there because it's the Pacers. I know that I get there 15 and 16. And if you would hope it's against the Bulls on Saturday, but if not, you would think that at least New Year's Eve, you're playing against the Pacers right there.
Yeah, I think you'll see. Gosh, Dame got this virus and Giannis got it before Christmas. That's why they missed the game. That's why they missed the game on the 23rd, right? So by the time we come up to the 30th, that virus hopefully is long gone and these guys are 100% ready to go. But like you said, man, send a message to Indy, but I wouldn't mind sending one to Chicago too, because I just hate that city unless we're talking about hockey.
Yeah, and hey, we evened up the season series, right? I think it's 1-1 now, and then now you can go ahead and put it to them. So yeah, I think all of that is good stuff. I think the Bucks just need to get these guys back on the court, because at some point it just has to stop, right? Like at some point it's no longer shorthanded Bucks. We need these stars to be out there. It just for the camaraderie of the team, right? Like you need these guys out and getting that type of experience, because even though Chris has been back for what is it? Probably like 10 games at this point, right? Something like that. Like even though he's been back, you still got to have these guys on the floor and getting those reps together, because they didn't play together in the playoffs. Quick Draw McGraw said this is the issue Doc had last year. Can't seem to get his best players on the court all at once. What would you say about that? I don't know. Is that Doc's fault? I don't really know.
I don't think that. Well, it's tough to blame anything last year on Doc when he took over halfway through, but I just think that's kind of the way the ball is kind of unfortunately bouncing early on in the NBA season. But remember, just like Chris just said, we want to get them on the floor, so the three of them on the floor together. And if we know one thing about Mr. Antetokounmpo, if he misses a game for illness, he's probably puking his brains out and all that other stuff that comes along with not being able to move or anything like that. I'm going to guess. And I think Dame's shown to be a pretty tough too. So, yeah, it sucks he can't have his best players on the floor. I know there was a lot of times when he was in LA where either Chris Paul would be hurt, Blake Griffin, Philly. We don't even got to talk about Embiid's injury history, right? And then at the end of Boston's probably his healthiest time. So But I think one thing that Doc Rivers has shown us that a lot of folks won't give him credit, but we had a lot of people when we were 1-9 or 2-8 or whatever it was. Doc Rivers, with his guys available, is a pretty damn good basketball coach. And remember what he said at the beginning of the year, Chris, we can't even install this offense until Middleton comes back. And he comes back 21 games in. So I think we're just on the skirts of seeing how great this could be. And that might have led to the bad offense efficiency that we had against Brooklyn in that second half too.
Yeah, and I think also when you just talk, like, this is the way, the NBA is headed, right? Like, you're exactly right in saying that. And then also you got to factor in just the injury history and the age of these guys and how rough it is to play as many minutes as they were even last year and this year, because the bench depth last year was not great. And then this year, on top of the bench depth not being great, missing Chris for as long as you did, it's just a lot of hard played minutes by our superstars. So I think there's a little bit of that too. So let's move on. Let's talk about the tale of two halves. And this has been kind of a ongoing theme with the Bucks this year. And I wouldn't even say this is a theme with the Bucks at full strength. I would say when you get some of these younger guys out there and you don't have the experience and you're throwing guys into new roles, I think you see some of these leads start to dwindle when it gets later in these games. So you lost the first quarter 27-25, but you won the second quarter 34-24. I'll say this, in the first half, like I said, I thought the energy was there. I thought the effort in keeping up with a team that, like you said, well-coached team, and they've got some personnel there. Like Nick Claxton's good. Cameron Johnson's really good. They've got some guys there. This is not just a throwaway basketball team. Like they're well coached and some decent pieces that are young and that want to play basketball. They throw those guys out there, and I've still felt like this Bucks team, no matter with the age, with Brooke, Bobby, with Chris being the lead guard tonight, and then throwing in a new guy in the starting lineup like you do with Ryan Rollins. He's had a couple of games started now, but just so green to this whole starting thing at the NBA level. I think that they kept up about as good as you can, and you had the lead going into half. And then it also spilled into the third quarter. Like we've seen that the Bucks might allow, a quick run out of the gate in the third quarter, and then it become a ball game. No, I thought the Bucks had control of this all the way to the fourth quarter. They didn't expand on the lead per se in the third, but they lost it by 2, and then you go into the fourth up 6, and you had an opportunity. You had multiple opportunities to get it up to double digits in the fourth, and you just couldn't capitalize. So some of the stuff we talked about earlier, I think, is the reason they were not able to capitalize and win this basketball game is the mistakes. Missing open shots, a little bit of selfish basketball, and then on the defensive end, just not being all the way locked in, and that can hurt you when this is such a 3-point heavy game, right? You get Shake Milton off the bench, and he gets a quick 3, and then he starts to feel it. They get a stop. They go down and hit another 3, and then he's open again. And then all of a sudden it's out. The game completely turns and is left out of your hands when you let a team get that type of momentum on the road and take a lead. And I think, we saw that. If you're able to keep that kind of cushion in the fourth quarter, I think you would be fine. But since they weren't, they tied it up at 99, and then all of a sudden there's 1 second left on the shot clock after a jump ball, and Noah Clowney hits a prayer, hits a heave from almost half court, turn around, banks it in. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you should not have to worry about if you just keep foot on necks, and they did not do that tonight.
Yeah, and that's really why I think we lost this basketball game from a heave from half court, off of the right basketball decision by Bobby Portis. Bat it forward and let the 1.5 seconds go off the clock. But the Nets are a super athletic team. The thing that they struggle with is shooting, and I think that's why we were able to pull away so much in that first half, because they were cold. And then they got fortunate and hit the square of the backboard a couple times and had a and 1 3-point play. Like, you take away those two things, and I think it's a completely different story. But you should never, ever be in a situation where we were. But I can't expect Brooke to shoot 67% and make 5 in a row. I think a lot of that led us to that lead, though. But, it's It's all a learning experience. And when you're looking at some of these guys and you're looking at a Rollins and he frustrates you at time, or a Portis, or AJ Green, or whoever, remember, there's roles on a team and there's rankings on this team for a reason. Don't look at AJ Green to make the same, or Bobby to make the same play that Giannis makes, or etc. Look at these guys for what they are. It's a reason AJ Green's coming off the bench, because he has some flaws and stuff like that to his game, and that's why he doesn't start. But every role player, bench player has flaws. That's why they're role players. So, hey man, Brooklyn has some guys that might be ascending past the role player status.
Yeah, no, they definitely got some guys that, I mean, you know, when you're a losing basketball team, you're searching for answers, right? You're searching for guys that you can throw out there that can make plays. And they got it tonight. And that's just the way the NBA goes, right? You know, sometimes you're not going to expect 6 of 9 from 3 every night from Noah Clowney. Some Bucks fans before this year might not even heard of the name Noah Clowney, right? So for them to be out there and they just made the better winning plays. They made smart decisions, and you know, it just felt like the Bucks' mental lapses was ultimately what led to this collapse. Let's check out the chat real quick. Charles Miller said Pat C would have been better than Wright. Almost anybody would have been better. I'm kind of that same belief. Like, hey, once you see a couple threes go down from Shake Milton, a guy who, you know, I haven't heard much noise from Shake Milton this year. Once you see a couple threes go down and he's, you know, playing the two-man game with whoever's the screener and he's getting open and finding his looks, you know, maybe it's time to throw somebody else out there that creates a different look for him. And that's, I think, what you were alluding to with when you talked about Ajax maybe getting out there, and instead he wasn't. So, yeah.
Anybody. We just got to switch the look. I think that's why we were out of so many timeouts, though, because Doc kept spending them trying to find something to knock this guy's rhythm off. I mean, all credits to Shake, man. He made a lot of good shots tonight, a lot of tough shots, a lot of – I mean, he'd be a heck of a guy to come off of anyone's bench. I mean, in that Brooklyn team, I think he should start. But, you know, guys tend to play really well against the Milwaukee Bucks, and we get all hyped up about them. And then, you know, a la Charlie Villanueva, no disrespect, but just keeping it a buck right now. He killed the Bucks for the Raptors. I'm talking about 35, 19, 14, 10 blocks, 13 steals. You're like, this doesn't even make sense on a video game. And he got to Milwaukee, couldn't throw the ball in Lake Michigan, man.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that these guys are going to play better. Let's say Iron Man Clan TV. Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm.
He thought that Wright and Bobby tanked the game.
Yeah,
that's why.
I mean, but I'm not gonna lie. Like, there was some. So on the defensive end, and what I saw Trey talk to him, or talk to us in the chat, and talk to our group chat, and say that why is, you know, Bobby Portis first off, and William in the chat just said, in what world do you double team Ben Simmons on the 3-point line? And you're exactly right. That's what I was getting at. And that's what Trey wanted us to get at is, number one, why are we doing that? Number two, why are we trying to pick him up from half court? I get you want to stop the momentum, but in no world is Ben Simmons close to the downhill threat that Giannis is. No way is he close to the downhill threat than some other guys in the league are. And you really just, I feel like you were doing way too much on Ben Simmons. And then at some points you weren't doing enough on Ben Simmons. Like, you were letting him drive all the way into the paint and then find some guys and dish it out and get some assists. So I think on the defensive end, Bobby could have used some work. He had that turnover late in the game where I think he stepped on the line or something like that. So it's just –
that was a bad pass by Middleton.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, this can go both ways, right? Like, I feel like it was Chris – I feel like it was Bobby a little bit, and I feel like it was Delon Wright mostly, just to allow them to get back in the game. And this is no personal shot at Delon Wright. This is what I saw. I saw him out there not giving no effort. I saw him out there missing a wide open three. They let him shoot it. They hit him with the hand movement, and they're like, yeah, go ahead. And he bricked it. And like, that's and they come down and hit a three on him. Like, that's what you just can't have. Those are losing stretches of basketball that ultimately make this a game, and it was a game until the Nets, you know, ended up pulling it out. So I think there's a little bit of that. No Hate Only Fact says, Chris is a problem, y'all. Dude is averaging 11 points and nobody talks about it. I disagree. I think that, like we said tonight, I think he was thrusted in a new role with handling the ball and being that kind of point guard, because you just can't rely on Ryan Rollins right now. And I think eventually you will be able to get there, and you're also kind of testing how Ryan Rollins plays off the ball, because he's knocked down some open spot up threes. He's gotten open for himself and made teams pay off of that. But he's also trying to get used to maybe having Dame out there and maybe running those two guys on the court at the same time. So I think there's a little bit of that. But where I get with Chris and saying he's a problem, look, minutes restriction, first of all, is that lifted yet? I mean, I'm sure. What do you have tonight?
No, not even close.
So not lifted yet. The turnovers, he's primary ball handler against a very feisty on-ball defending team in terms of you look at some of those guys that Brooklyn threw out there. Keon Johnson was good tonight, and Cam Johnson had some good defense. Even Claxton locked Chris up at the end, which is crazy. But, you factor in all that and the minutes restriction and just not playing basketball. I think, like I said before in a show, I think there hasn't been a skill drop-off with Chris. It's just the rustiness a little bit to me. And that's why I think you see some of these performances where it's, hey, you might, knock down a good amount of shots. You might be 7 for 11, 21 points. But with that came 7 turnovers. And
those 7 turnovers come with not having Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard on the floor.
Yeah,
not making
the
any
ball, right? Yeah.
Right. They'll handle the ball, and then Chris can more create off the ball and still be the primary ball handler, if that makes sense at the same time. Mm-hmm. Hey, look, we got to remember, man, and I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. The dude had 2 ankle surgeries and had to learn how to walk again.
Yeah.
Like, fathom that. Not having use of either one of your ankles, and then, you can go run up and down the court with some of the most youngest athletic dudes there are on this planet. Mm-hmm. Chris is fine, and you know what? He's going to be even finer. I don't know if I'm making up words now, Chris King. When Dame and Giannis come back. This is like, we got to understand something as Bucks fans. Granted, you hear me get excited about the NBA Cup and all my guys dump on me for that. And I still remember the 80s and all that. But we're not the same Bucks. And what I mean by that, we're not playing basketball for another division championship banner to go up next to Chris King's favorite cup banner in the Pfizer, right? What we're playing basketball for is for the Larry O'Brien. So we need to start chalking these regular seasons out for nothing and just realize that this is practice to get ready for our real season that starts in April.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I think that's kind of the bigger takeaway you can have from when there's these games without the superstars out there, right? Like you're able to see what you're working with when it comes to your bench when these guys are back in the lineup. You're able to see who's comfortable, who's not. You're able to see a guy like Delon Wright give up a 14-0 run to Shake Milton by himself. Thank you, Matt. I see you in the chat. So, like, you're able to kind of be able to tell when April, when June, when May, all those months come, and it's really, really important basketball. You're able to look back at these games and say, okay, I don't want Doc throwing in this guy because he did this, right? Or I do want Doc throwing in this guy to be a reliable 3-and-D wing off the bench because he did this in one of these games where Chris and Dame were out, or Dame and Giannis were out. So I think these games are always learning experiences. And I think the Bucks just came out on the losing end of one that you really should have won. And that's why I'm not really too excited about this, right? Like, I do feel like this was a game that should have been won. It very easily could have been won. Just the mental lapses ultimately took over, and then the Bucks allowed the Nets to take it from them. So just a missed opportunity tonight. The Bucks lose it to the Brooklyn Nets at home, 111-105, after leading for most of the game and leading for most of the third quarter. So any final words before we keep this thing rolling?
No, I say we throw the tape in the trash, man. Let's move on. Doc's a better coach than this. Everybody on that roster from 1 to 15 is better than that. We'll get a couple of our dogs back and let's go kill them again in Chicago. Can't lose to Chicago.
Yeah, and we'll also get JT back at some point. Get JT back for that Bulls game as well, and then we'll get Trey Crosby back. He said he might be done until the new year, which is okay. That's why we're here. That's why we got 4 employees, we'll say, of the Cream City Crossover. We're always watching the Bucks, always covering the Bucks, and you know who's always got you covered, Justin.
Oh man, I think you're talking about Curly's, my spot.
Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill, $3 bottles and pints during all televised Milwaukee Bucks game on Pewaukee Lake, Pewaukee, Wisconsin. And so you can go head out there and get you some drinks, especially after a night where the Bucks didn't have it. You can, plenty of $3 bottles and pints to go around there at Curly's. I don't have a trivia question. What you got? You got any trivia for us, Justin?
What's the last player you can name from the Nets before the night?
Oh man. See, you can't even go Dennis Schroeder now. He's on the Warriors.
Can't even go
They
Dennis
shipped
Schroeder.
him off. No, I don't know, man. That is a team, and that is a Brooklyn Nets team that's a little, out there in terms of who, like, they don't really have a real core on that team yet. So it'll be fun and interesting to see who they kind of build around, because Cam Thomas has been talked about, in trade talks, but Cam Johnson is also coming into his own. They obviously dealt Mikal Bridges, so that was another thing. Like, they really don't have that core guy outside of maybe Claxton, maybe Ben Simmons, but like, you're really not getting much out of him in terms of star power. But regardless, Curly's always has that star power. Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill, proud sponsor of the Cream City Crossover. Head out there, tell them the guys sent you, Chris King and Justin and Trey Crosby III and JT, all those. Listen, we're gonna definitely put in a good word for you. We need you to put in a good word for us over there at Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill. You want to do game balls?
Let's do the game balls.
All right.
Let me go. I'll go first. So I'm going to give mine to Splash Mountain. Anytime you climb up to top 20 in anything in the NBA is huge to me. I thought he played probably one of the best first halves you could. Well, second quarter was just amazing. I know you gentlemen like to give them to the winners, but top 20 of all time. He's getting close to that surface of that Hall of Fame, though.
Yeah, and like I said, guys, like, for those of you in the chat, and we appreciate you guys listening to us on a night where, hey, day after Christmas, the Bucks didn't have it late down in the stretch in the game. Maybe you guys don't have it as much, but you're spending time with us. We appreciate that always. I say this about Brooke, like, that was like the main matchup I was monitoring when I first flipped this game on and I was watching this, because of how Claxton was able to kind of just outwork him a little bit and get him uncomfortable. And I felt like Brooke took it to him tonight. I felt like Brooke may have held that grudge, and he gave him 20 and 7. Claxton got 13 and 7. So pretty much, an outplaying by Brooke over Claxton. And that's what you want to see. You want to allow Brooke to instill that confidence in himself and in us, to be able to rely on him to play some of these younger bigs that you may face down the stretch. But like you said, I got to give it to a winner. I got to give it to a winner tonight, and it's got to be Shake Milton.
I know he's not Shake.
I got to give it to Shake Milton, because just the way he was able to come in and impact the game, and it was scoring. It was scoring. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say it was any other way than just scoring. But,
right.
For him to not be that kind of guy you're worried about as much, and then, you see some shades of vintage Shake Milton when he's in Philly and he's, relied on to be their starting point guard for 82 because Joel can't stay on the floor, right? Like, you see some of that. You see some of that Shake come back tonight, and I thought that was really the turning of the tide in this game. Noah Clowney had a good one too. That lucky shot, and then at one point he made his first 5 threes. So that kid can probably be a good player here soon. I think he's got the size and got the jumper for it. But I'm gonna give it to Shake Milton. I thought he took advantage of a slower matchup in terms of Delon just couldn't stay in front of him. And he was active out there coming off the bench and knocked down a couple threes. And ultimately, I think, propelled them to the victory in terms of just getting them back into the game. So that's where I'll go with my game ball. You went Brooke. I think if I was to give one to the Bucks, man, I don't know. I thought Gary Trent Jr. played well again. And I think 22 minutes. I think that especially when you've got such a depleted team right now in terms of just guys missing games, I think that could have probably ramped up as well. Like I get he started that fourth quarter and had played the back end of the third, But I feel like when you've got the hot hand right there, you probably just let him go. Because he made some defensive plays as well, which he's been a capable defender these past couple games.
Yeah, we're gonna get better, man. This one is frustrating. You got your I guess Iron Man. He asking you a question. I know he's not asking me that question.
Iron Man Clan TV says again, can you trust Bobby in the playoffs? Well, see, that's the thing, right? And this is again maybe not a conversation for today because we've talked about this. You guys know how we feel about it, or some of us feel about it in terms of what Bobby brings to you. And last year, you had the instance where he gets ejected early in a game versus the Pacers, and that's not to say that that's going to happen again, but you've got some mental lapses and some things to go off of from Bobby in the playoffs. But you've also had some good performances from Bobby in the playoffs, no doubt. But can you get it for a 7-game series? Can you get good Bobby? Can you get the Bobby that is, again, letting the game come to him and making good decisions, making smart decisions, and not having to handle the ball? I don't know. I just can't answer that right now. And I think that's something that with the Bucks probably maybe making a move, I think that's something that they'll probably try to address. If they feel like they can't trust him, then he'll be gone. But if they do feel like they can trust him and he's got the trust in the locker room, like people say, with this Bucks team, then I think he may stay. And that, I don't know. I don't know how I would feel about that, but we'll see. Again, you haven't had your star power in the playoffs these past couple of years, right? So it's tough to tell. In that role, like we say, in that role where he's taking maybe 10 shots a game, I like him to do that. That's fine. But when you start to be beside yourself, again, Will Lindquist says, worried about how Black Hole Bobby is here again. Stuff like that. -12 killed the flow on the offense. Like, if you get some of that in important games, I don't know. Do you want that on your team?
But let's remember, he had 3 assists tonight, 18 and 8 too. Black Hole, it's tough to call him Black Hole Bobby when he has to score the ball tonight. Like, him and Brooke have to do that. Yeah. If they don't do that, we get ran out the gym by them. Can I trust Bobby again? He was 16 and 11 in what everyone says is a horrible playoff experience for him last year.
Yeah.
Stop. I can't look for Bobby to be Giannis. I can't look for Bobby to be Middleton, to be any of the top 6. Bobby's probably 7 for 8 on his team. When you add in a healthy Gary Trent Jr. being who he is. So I'm going to look for my 8th option. If he can give me 8 points and 8 rebounds, that's all I need from Bobby. I don't need him to get 34, 10, and 22, though.
Yeah, the issue is that it's the inconsistency, right? Like you can go like a couple games ago and see that he went 34, 10, and 8, but then you can also go to tonight where he's -12, or there's games where he just did not shoot the ball with 2 of 9 from the field, stuff like that, and that can really hurt you. Anthony Lacey said they're not trading Bobby. I think they could shop him around, man. Like this is a real thing for the Bucks. They could shop him around. I'm not gonna say that they can't trade him right now. Like they need to get younger. And not saying Bobby's super young, but he's 29 years old, and you've already seen him in that kind of role and with this team with Giannis, and they haven't done much. So if there is a way to the only 2 trade pieces we have is Brooke and Bobby. So to say that they wouldn't trade him, they may not, but I don't know. Will says, agreed they have to score, but I would hope the others, Rollins, Green, and Ajax, to get at least 10 apiece, and I'm good. Bobby with 12, 17 points per game and not doing the bad stuff, I'll take. Consistency, please. Yeah, that's all I think we're asking for. They're over here calling Delon Wright felon right.
I see it. I was like, Lord, I was like, man.
I love it, though. That's lit.
With Bobby, though, my last point on Bobby is I think we have our best Bobby Portis we've ever had. And the reason why I say that, because I think that Doc, and this is why you pay this man, but I think Doc can get more out of him than any other previous Bucks coach that we had. No shade to Bud, no shade to Griffin. The other thing is, remember, Doc dealt with some dudes who could be considered, not even considered, mental head cases. Yeah. And did a damn good job with Big Baby.
Yeah.
So we got to trust Doc a little bit. and we just got to let Bobby go Bobby.
They're saying it's a typo, but I think Iron Man Clan TV,
No, there ain't
he
no
got on
typo.
board with that. He got on board with the
Yeah.
typo. I like that. That's
Hey,
funny.
it went one type over, it took over.
Yeah. Regardless, Delon Wright is on our team, so we'll support him in his future endeavors. Maybe it's on the bench. But yeah, man, I think that's good stuff. I think, like I said again, tonight Bucks lose at 111-105 to the Nets. Just the collapse and like we talked about with Bobby, it's not a conversation for tonight. Especially there was nothing he could have done tonight that would have made me either be sold completely on trading him or sold completely on keeping him. I just think that if the time comes and there is the right offer, then maybe you explore it. I don't know if they, I don't know if they're getting any offers or if they see anybody that they would like, but I trust that's why we are just the guys who react to the post game and react to what's on the floor. Gregory says the issue is we can't win without Dame and Giannis, and that's exactly right. I think it's almost past the guys on the bench because we've seen what Giannis and Dame can do when they're on the floor together, right? Like there's been games where they go for 60 points combined, right? And you know that is sustainable in the playoffs as long as those guys are out there. So I think, even if Bobby is or is not being traded, the most important thing, and I would agree, is getting those two guys on the floor together.
So let's remember, though, saying that we can't win without Dame and Giannis. We were up for 1-2 games with them pretty handily. And then in the third game, we just peed down our leg. Yeah. And I'm not saying we're going to go beat and win a championship without Dame or Giannis. But I think either Dame or Giannis in this game, and the win's in our favor. But again, this is why the only cup we care about in December is the one we just won. Anything in between that baby cup and the real trophy is all just, I don't even care our seed anymore because I really believe we can hoop with anybody in the East and anybody in the West. Shout out to all the Dunkin' Donuts idiots too.
No, yeah, but, I mean, you're right. I definitely think that like they can compete, but I think, yeah, like when you get to important basketball, when you get to those stretches and you get to the playoffs where you need these guys, you're going to need Dame and Giannis out there for sure. And I think that's what you understand that too. I just
absolutely.
Like they've got to be out there, and I can't wait to see. That's why we want them to play so much like right now together, because they're able to be at their best when they get there. But we've already seen flashes, right? Like last year, I felt like, not being able to have Dame and Giannis in the playoffs together definitely hurt them, especially them not being at the peak of that dynamic duo of what it could be. Like we need on-court experience from those two together. And that's why I think these games are so important in the regular season. But it is encouraging, definitely, to have, some of these guys get out there and play important minutes in regular season games, right? So for them to all have different roles, it's good.
And score the ball, because this bucket today that Ajax went and made one of those crazy layups and realized he can – and I'm not talking about the layup because we know the layup was crazy. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he realizes his athleticism can get him to the rim for an easy bunny can pay off in March, April, and forward after that, man. So that's just a big thing, man. Let these guys get confidence. Let some of these guys, AJ Green, rip the cords a little bit. I mean, gosh, I was hoping that in case we had a situation like where we had to have Jeff Teague on the floor. Delon Wright can make a couple buckets tonight.
Yeah.
See rip cord but that unfortunately didn't happen. But I just think it's all gaining momentum to get to this playoffs. I do not think we will win an NBA championship without our big three. But at this point, I'm so small-minded focused. I want to get out the first round. I don't care about the seed, nothing. Man. Get out the first round.
Yeah, we all want to get out of the first round. I'm sure the players want it more than us, but then also we want it so we can keep giving you guys this great post-game show. With that, I just think that this is a game that the Bucks, they could have won, they didn't win. And you chalk it up and, with some of these other ones that maybe you should have won, but, the personnel wasn't out there that you wanted to be out there. And ultimately it came back to bite them, I would say, late, just because – like we said, the mistakes, guys getting thrusted into new roles. Bucks lose it. Saturday, got the Bulls. 111-105. The Nets win tonight, but hopefully quick turnaround. Just played the Bulls Monday. Belt to ass. Let's go belt to ass Saturday again. And you got anything for the look around? I know there's Jim Larinaga stepped down at Miami. Talk about that. You talk about all the other stuff going on around this crazy world.
You got your Washington Wizards beat the Charlotte Hornets 113-110.
Yeah.
Utah is up 70-58 on the Portland Trailblazers, and the Sacramento Kings are up 75-56 on the Detroit Pistons. And the Chicago Bears lost another football game, 6-3 tonight.
There you go. Hopefully it's 3 L's this week for Chicago.
Let's go.
That would be awesome. I was actually looking at that too. Some of the NBA scores, the Thunder prevail. They outscored the Pacers by 7 in the fourth to beat them 120-114. That is a game that Pacers should have won. They were up as much as 15, and they just, again, choked. Pacers 15-16 now, struggling down there in Indiana.
What seed is that?
I don't know.
That got to be a play-in team, right?
At this point, that is the 8th seed. So yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh,
play-in. Okay. So we'll see. We'll see if that boy from Oshkosh gets even back into the playoffs. What else? Oh, Tyler Hero, game winner with 3 seconds left over the Orlando Magic. So there's some of that. We talked about Jimmy Butler's situation. Now Pat Riley comes out and says that they're not going to be trading him. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? The report comes out that he may force his way to Phoenix. And then all of a sudden, his agent gets into it. They get involved with Shams, the guy who broke that type of news. And then now Pat Riley sets the record straight on the Marquette guy.
Well, man, Jimmy Butler's one of my favorite Marquette Golden Eagles ever. But I can't say if I don't like to see it come to these Miami Heat. And I seen a lot of people on Twitter. First thing I did when I woke up is when I went to my little meditation stuff, I remembered all you Miami folks. Giannis for this, Giannis for that, Dame for this, Dame for that. So it's kind of funny how when it hits your front door with all this controversy, now everything's up in arms. I hope it continues to crumble down there in Miami. I hope that the weather is like when I went out there for Packers and Dolphins a couple years ago, 44 degrees, and no one had a hoodie except for me in the entire stadium, and they were upset. So I hope you get that type of stuff, Miami. I'm upset, but I'm glad you can struggle like we can struggle with all this trade rumor BS.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing with Jimmy Butler, man. Like I feel like he's just a little unserious about this whole NBA career he's got. He's at some point you got to look at the career and his trajectory and how many teams he's been on, and you've got to say maybe that guy's the issue. Like, I know they've done some great things in Miami, and I know they've been to the NBA Finals twice, and they've lost each time. But, maybe he is not the guy that, you need to be the guy to win a champion. He's not Giannis. Well, I'll say that. He's not Giannis. He can't do it. He can't take that team to new heights that they've got right now. I think at the end of the day, he's normally the issue. And I think that's what people have a hard time admitting, that why is he getting forced out of – he didn't like Cat in Minnesota. He wanted to stay in Philly. They didn't want him. And then he still hasn't won anything. So, I mean, I just think he might be the common denominator in all this in his career, really.
I don't even think he's Chris Middleton, but, let the Miami people get upset. But, I mean, I take prime Chris over prime Jimmy Butler. But, I'm biased, but Jimmy's my guy. But look, hey, man, I want to sit here and tell you you're wrong, but I just feel like Jimmy is a little bit out of his generation with the competitiveness. And you're not in the Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird era where these dudes hate each other on and off the court. Yeah. It's different. Everybody's friends. So, Jimmy, you got to kind of change your attitude. Yeah. And going to Phoenix. So what is Phoenix? What's Phoenix giving up to get him?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is terrible. Like I don't understand. If you were going to Phoenix, first off, you're going to be – maybe he just doesn't want to play, big minutes in the regular season. Maybe he doesn't want to take this regular season serious, because then you go to Phoenix, and assuming they're not trying to give up Brad Beal, well, you might need to get one of them, Brad Beal, Book, or KD. You're going to be taking maybe the third option role on that team, whereas right now it's probably your team in Miami, and it has been. So, yeah, Jay Reed, what up, Coach? Says Pat is old school and won't be forced to do anything. Jimmy might have to sit down and shut up. Yeah, no, I agree. I think he might have to sit down and shut up, because at the end of the day, you don't have that kind of leverage if you haven't won. If you haven't won a championship, you've gotten them there, but you also don't give a shit in the regular season. You also, it just is kind of an is what it is thing for Jimmy Butler. I don't see that competitive drive until it's a must-win game or a must-win series come out in Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, and I mean he wasn't the first option when he was in Philly, and he did well there. Maybe being the first option is too much for him, man. I mean, I still have nightmares from when he, got to Drew like that, man. And so he's definitely.
No. I mean, he's proved to a lot of Bucks fans that he's well worthy to be a number one option. Just not get you all the way over the hump and winning that title. That's another story.
And you can only, if you're at Phoenix, and this is just me and you speculating right now, but you can only give up Bradley Beal, because you're not going to trade Devin Booker, the face of your entire whole new arena pitch in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
And you can't, and KD can't play on another team, can he?
I don't know.
Like, we're just like,
yeah. I mean, they wouldn't trade KD either at this point. I think KD's happy where he's at. And shout out to Coach Bud. Man. They got them rolling, right? They're
hooping in Phoenix.
Yeah, they're hooping. They just beat the Nuggets last night. So, yeah, man. I mean, that's all interesting stuff, and certainly, glad we don't have that problem with our star. That's the biggest thing, right? We don't have that problem with Giannis. We don't have Giannis forcing his way out, at least not yet. And we love that for Milwaukee Bucks fans and just our Milwaukee Bucks superstar. Jay Reed said Book and KD not going nowhere. So, yeah, it would probably be Beal. But, I mean, we'll see if this thing even happens. Probably not now that Riley's not going to do it.
Sorry, keep in mind, we talk about how our playoff woes are with injuries. Jimmy Butler, he definitely missed last year, and wasn't he kind of shaky the year before after they beat us to finish? I don't think he finished out against Boston. So, come on, that's a lot for a guy that is a alleged locker room problem. I'm going to say alleged because I'm not in that locker room. And then you're not even your best availability, like they say. What does everyone say?
Availability, right.
And if you're not available, Jimmy, hey, you made a hell of a Netflix show, though. I like watching him on there, though. You did good.
What was it? He had a Netflix show?
They were on Starting Five. Him, LeBron.
Oh, Anthony Edwards.
It's a good watch, man.
Okay, I might have to check it out. But regardless, we appreciate you checking us out here at the Cream City Crossover. This has been a Cream City Media Group production. Any final words on this Bucks game? Like I said, I probably already asked you this a couple times. Bear with me, guys. Anchoring again, knocking off the rust like Chris Middleton when he came back from 21 games off. You got anything else on the Bucks or look around or anything?
Everybody rest up. We'll look forward to seeing you against some Chicago Bulls. You did a hell of a job, Chris King. You're my guy.
Hey, appreciate that, Justin. We appreciate you guys spending time with us. As always, want to thank our sponsor, Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill. $3 in bottles and pints. You can go get those when I think it's Wednesday, Thursday. So go ahead and check them out. Tell them we sent you here at the Cream City Media Group. This has been a Cream City Media Group production. I'm Chris King.
Justin.
Hey, man. What does Trey say? Don't take no wood nickels. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Bucks lose 111-105. Courage.